Week 15 with Ash. We're going to be talking about podcasting software today, as podcasting is becoming a larger and larger and a more popular social audio platform for many people. And as the world is becoming so overloaded with the digital content, I think people are pulling back and going back to almost the good old days where we had the radio. And as people are so busy running around doing multi things, they can multitask and listen and learn. And I've kind of discovered this. I think COVID helped to bring it out even more, where podcasting has just become, or is growing, should I say. It's estimated that podcasting, so far has grown about 20 million in a year. So they're estimating that's going to be about 20 million each year as far as the listeners go. So it's definitely becoming more and more of a popular platform to at least listen to. And I know if the demand is high, eventually the supply will start to catch up. So if you're into podcasting and you have a nice long history of it, good for you. Companies are actually starting to push more towards having podcasters do their advertisements for them. Yes, you've always had the affiliate options and then the sponsorship opportunities. And those haven't been super high, and you don't usually get a whole lot, sometimes percentage of how many impressions there are or how many people that'll sign up through your affiliation link. So it's maybe been a couple cents per one of those. So it takes a lot to be able to make much in the way of compensation for it, unless you have a fairly large following and can push your podcast fairly far. But now it is becoming more and more of a means. The birth of Wisdom this past year in the beta phase, and then they moved to full launch. Kind of brought out another side of podcasting / social audio, where you have two people that can get in and talk live, almost like they're on their own radio show at the same time. And it's kind of like a smaller, more quiet version of Clubhouse. Clubhouse kind of got everything started, whereas before you had to social audio was more of you just listened to the one person. It was not very interactive, where now, with Wisdom, Clubhouse, and we've got Twitter's opened up rooms, and a couple other platforms have done the same, where you can have social audio rooms and have live conversations with people all over the world and lots of interaction, things like that. So that's been really huge, and I think people like that because they don't have to get dressed up, or they can do it while they're on the go between work. And like I said, it just gives a lot of opportunities for people to be able to get other things done while they're listening and learning at the same time. So we're going to talk a little bit about the podcasting tools and software. Recently on the Malibash Media Show, we interviewed Alex, and he is the SaaS founder, one of them, of Pod Pros, which is a really unique platform and software for not only, it's not for hosting, but it's for finding, basically, you can get matched with guests. And this is a huge need that was filled because so many podcasters, run into the question of, all right, who's my next guest going to be? And then you have to figure out how to get in touch with them. You have to get the links sent over. You have to figure out how they're going to get there to your podcast, whether it's going to be a web or whether it's going to be live, is the technology working? And, you have to connect with them prior, send over all the information, blah, blah, blah. So this has made it a lot easier to be able to connect with them right there. And it's basically like a dating app, only for guests of podcast shows. And just a great way for you to be able to pick and choose some of your guests and be able to get some really great opportunities. He's also created podcasting Podcaster SOP, which is a great way for scheduling your podcast at the right time and making sure it stays consistent. As you know, eventually, I know it doesn't mess too much with the algorithms right now, but I know eventually lovely algorithms will come into effect as to, the podcasting. The more you post at certain times, the more likely yours is to surface out of others. I know, fortunately, that hasn't been as much of the case just because social audio hasn't been huge. But as it's growing, I guarantee you the algorithm will come in to destroy all that wonderful freelance stuff. So, and then he's also created communities, and there's just a really great, lots of different podcasting software that he has created. So I highly suggest you guys check out podpros.com. Some of really interesting streaming software. I think once we get down to it, there's lots of different hosting softwares out there. You've got Buzzsprout, you've got Podbean. There's endless amounts of those, and it just kind of comes down to preference, as a lot of them will have they'll have the website for your podcast, they'll have the abilities to connect with directories. Buzzsprout is really great with being able to connect with directories. A couple other ones are as well, I believe Podbean, and then a few other of the newer ones that are very quick in connecting. You have Reasons now, which is basically you upload your own, and it's kind of almost becoming like another Pandora. From what I understand so far with the platform, it is fairly new Reasons. So then you got to think about the streaming software and what do you want to use, because a lot of podcasting is going to video and audio. So people can use that on their YouTube channels and make it into more of a show, so that you can kind of pop in, ask questions, and it's more of a live interactive, really nice way to boost some visibility. And there's Restream, you've got StreamYard, you've got Riverside, OBS, Kajabi. There's so many of those out there as well. And right now, the top seem to be StreamYard, Restream, and OBS. Those tend to be a little bit more. There's Anchor FM as well. There's so many different ones that are out there. And many of the softwares give the option to do, I know OBS, Restream, and a couple other ones give the option to do multiple camera angles. You can broadcast it live to all of your channels and so on and so forth. And it's just a really great way to have those lives, because it pops you up a little bit more as an active and helps in your algorithm. So the nice thing is being able to do, especially for the influencer, being able to do more in one sitting, kind of like what they did with Meta, did with Facebook and Instagram, creating the suite where you can post and schedule postings to both, thanks to Meta being part of both of those, and creating that connection there. And then you got to think about, with podcasting software, mixers and what's going to be the best for your audio. And there's a lot of different, there's Voicemeeter, that's free online software to be able to use. And some of them are PC friendly versus Apple friendly as well. But there's lots of different softwares out there that you can use to help enhance your sound, along with the hardware of a good mic and hardware of a mixer. There's Magic Mix, which I've heard a lot about. There's, of course, Adobe, GarageBand. That's fairly decent, pretty popular. Logic Pro is another good one. SoundForge, Studio One. There's Isotope. Their version 3 just came out recently. And there's so many other ones that you can go into and spend quite a bit. And this is another thing that comes down to, we were talking about film editing software and Adobe products. What's going to go across the board? Because if you can use your sound equipment for doing voiceover work and things like that, then you could probably use it for podcasting as well. There's a little bit of a difference. You don't need to have as crisp and clear for necessarily podcasting, though that does really help. Really, really help. But if you're going to have a good studio setup for voiceover acting and recording, then you should be set to go for podcasting. You'll probably just need to get a streaming software. And the streaming softwares that have the ability or are able to, have the ability, or if you upgrade, they have the ability to be able to get the separate soundtracks. That is really helpful, especially when it comes to editing. If your guest has bad software and their sound is really poor, then you can always just separate their voice and work on that sound. All right, well, there's a couple other softwares I wanted to mention. Squadcast is one of them. And like I said, I think I mentioned Riverside was one. Podpage is another. All these ones I would highly suggest checking out. But again, there's so many of them. And I have Podpage is a podcasting website. I've had or done a lot of research, and then you go and try out the product and it may or may not work. So it just ultimately, unfortunately, it could be a lot of trial and error. And usually if there's a large resounding yes to a certain product, it's going to probably be your best bet. There's a lot of new ones that are coming out there that have so many bug fixes, and they've got lots of upgrades, and you can freeze frame. It's amazing, the things that are coming out. So it's always worth a try. All right, guys, well, take care, and we will see you back.